Hey, so we're putting in a veranda here so that my beautiful mother can do the dishes without having the sun directly put in her eyes. So there's just going to be a veranda above this window. I'm going to put a post here. So I've already dug the holes. I'm going to put a ledger there and then make sure that it's like parallel to the ledger. Making these packers, so these packers will sit at every about 500. The purpose of these is that if any water goes in behind the ledger or ribbon board, whatever you want to call it, the water can flow down. I'm not too worried about the water actually getting in there because it's got a little bit of a siphete here. These are just going to go there and then there. So I've just added a string line here from the bottom of this point to the bottom of that point. So that's level there, that face. And then run a string line. Now the reason why I do this is because these weatherboards snaky like that, like a slippery serpent. So this piece just goes in here. Like I can make this face all in the same line so that my ledger or my ribbon board can all be in a straight line. What I really don't want to happen is the moisture from the rafter to go through the rafter and then through this packer and then into the framing and start rotting out the framing, because the moisture can like go through things and then into the framing and start rotting the framing inside. Water's really sneaky. Instead of holding this and then risking hitting my finger, good little tip is just hold that like that and then just hit it with the hammer. So all of our packers are in, and just to double check that they're all in line before I put my ribbon board on or ledger, I just check that the straight edge is touching each packer and it's not rocking. If it's got a gap underneath, then I'll just add another layer of DPC until it's all in line. I don't want this ribbon board to be going in and out. And I've also cut a 9.2 degree bevel on this, which is going to be the angle of the roof. Also, when I put my ledger up, I'm going to make sure that there's enough gap in between here for my roofing to go in this gap here. And I've had to rip this 140mm down to 125 so that I can slide the roofing underneath between this face here and this face. It's important when you're trying to line up something on top of a flashing of a window to stand back and make sure that it looks good. Last thing you want is to have like a weatherboard or something, a board that's sitting on top of the flashing to be on the piss like this, because it's going to be like that for life, and we're going to put a lot of screws in it as well, so it's going to be really permanent. So what we want here is a really even parallel gap between here and here. You know, it's the kind of thing you can get fired for. Like if the boss turns up and your weatherboard or whatever you've got here is not straight with the flashing, it just looks like shit. Usually you have to tear it down and then make it right. So this one's looking good, and I'll shoot this off and happy days. So to get the position of this post here, I've first put this rafter on, and I've made sure that the rafter's square, and then I'll set up my laser here. It's 972 off the ledger here. Level's good. It's not quite sitting on that string 100%, but it's ready for concrete. And that's plumb. And the other side. And that side's perfect as well, so yeah, we'll get some concrete in there and it should be good. So the post is concreted in. String line at the bottom. string line here, and then the top is held by that framing there. So now I can go ahead and put that outside rafter on. So the post sits in there like that, so string line there and then string line there, and then I've screwed the post to here. And then this piece represents the thickness of the rafter, because the rafter is going to go in here and then it's going to be checked into here. Just mark out the rafter positions, so one on the ledger or ribbon board, and then one on this lintel here, so same distance from here to here, and then the same distance from here to here, and then the in-between rafters are going to go in here. I'm going to have to check this rafter into this post, so what I've done is I've just cut it with my knife here, so that when I put my saw through it doesn't tear out the material too much. And then I'll make cuts all the way through, and then I'll take all of the little wedgy bits out. So we just take the wedge pieces out, and then I've just got to tidy that up with a chisel. After on this side just goes in here like that, and then it's got a little bird's mouth to go over there. To do the bird's mouth on the rafter, I just pin it on, and then like in the position that I want it at, and I just trace it, and then like that, and then just cut it. So I've done my little checkout, and I've given it 3 coats inside of the checkout, so if any water gets in there, hopefully it doesn't go into the post and start rotting the post out. It's going to sit in there like that, and then I'm going to put 2 screws in, like a screw there, bugle screw there, and then we're going to put the other post in down there. Full disclosure, I made a little boo-boo on this one. So I had this rafter sitting high, and then this piece on top, and bug me days, I forgot to cut my bird's mouth in. So that's the little bird mouth there, so that's all cut in, and the reason why we put a bird's mouth in there is so that there's more surface area sitting on the lintel, so the rafters have more support to sit on. That's actually called a seat cut there, so, and that's called a plumb cut. So yeah, it's sitting on the seat, and it's sturdy. So I'll put my rafters on, and now it's time to cut them all off. So what I've done is I measured on this side 288, and then a plumb line, and then I'll put my string just here, and it's exactly the same distance from here to here on this side as it is on the other side. So all I need to do now is get my level, chuck that on there, get it plumb. Cool, and then that's the line that I cut, and I'll do that all the same down the line, and then it'll give me a nice straight surface to hang my fascia. I've almost nogged all of this out, and the purpose of the nogging is to provide fixing for the roofing sheets. So all I do is I just measure between the rafters. This one here is 505, and then I take off 1mm, and then that's 504. So I cut my nog to 504, because if I cut it to 505, then it's going to be a press fit, and I want to make it easy for myself. So I take off 1mm and make it a little bit smaller than the gap. So yeah, dry fit the spouting so that it all is in line. Install the brackets. So that should work. So those 4x2s are on, and then that trim's on. So I've just filled all the holes with silicone in the gaps actually as well. Then that pipe's on as well. Oh yeah, pretty good, eh? So this scribe is kind of tricky, so I've just chucked tape on here, and then I'll just trace around the tape. So yeah, I'll trace that and then cut it. Because the scribe is not quite right, I've just put the tape where it's right, and then I've just painted it, and then I've transferred it onto here. The old grinder cut through it pretty good without cracking it, but it did leave quite a lot of burrs. But this burr is going to be hidden anyway, and then the factory edge is going to be the one that's hanging over the fascia. So yeah. And then the gutter's all on. The fretwork is all on. The privacy screen is in. It's got a bead around it to hold it in there. The veranda's got 3 coats of paint. And yeah, it was a fun job, and all it needs now is to get the scaffold taken away, and it'll be all finished. So we've finished the veranda, and there's no more glare coming through the window, and we've put a tinted roof on, so only a little bit of light comes through. We've put the fretwork on to keep the character of the house. The fretwork in the front matches the back here, so that fretwork came from Bungalow and Villa. And then we put a privacy screen on this side here as well, so it gives a little bit of privacy from the neighbours. And thanks to the experienced builders on Instagram for giving tips, you know, now and then, and cheers for the help, and thanks for watching.